Top Thrill 2 is the new king of Cedar Point. Standing at 420 feet tall, twice, it towers over every structure in the park. No matter where you are, you could always see it and hear it. I've gotten 3 rides on it this year. I would have had more right now, but...
Bro, are you serious right now, bro?
I haven't ridden in the back or front row, but honestly, I don't feel like you need to sit in a specific seat to get an unbelievable ride. The ride experience as a whole is just so unique. Once you pull out of the station, you sit on the launch track while you hear some random sound effects. Sometimes a ride op could even talk to you on some sort of speaker. And then you hear the super annoying... You take off on a seemingly slow and boring launch, but honestly, it's surprisingly fun. It's obviously no Top Thrill launch, but it does have some kick. It obviously looks super slow while watching the ride just because it's literally a mile of straight track. But you have to remember, this first launch is just as fast as Steel Vengeance, and the launch itself is faster than Maverick's launch. Respectfully, Maverick's is definitely better, just because it has way more insane acceleration. But honestly, the first launch on Top Thrill 2 is really fun. You travel like halfway up the top hat, another part of the ride that blew away my expectations. Though it doesn't go that far up the top hat, you're still like 200 feet in the air, so it's pretty fun. But after the rollback, it goes from fun to... You speed up to over 100 miles per hour backwards, which feels very odd. The backwards acceleration is fun, insanely unique, but I definitely prefer my launches forward, just because you get the wind in your face, but the backwards launch is still absolutely wild. After you go up that massive 420-foot spike, you travel about 370 feet up it. The spike for me isn't about the force or anything, you just feel weightless, but it's nothing crazy. But I love it so much because it's so high up, it's so surreal. The roller coaster is so loud until you reach the top of that spike, and then time just stops. Anyways, now you're back, straight down the spike, and thinking you were literally about to get decapitated by this thing. And now you're about to travel 120 miles per hour with the third and final launch and start to climb up a 420-foot tall top hat. As you travel up that top hat, you do this little twist thing, which is way more whippy than it was on Top Thrill. As you go over the top hat, you get some nice airtime as well. The whole top hat is just so much better than it was on the original dragster. There are much better forces, and it just feels way more intense, especially on the way down from the top hat when you go through that spiral. Now, your ride is over. Each time I sat on the brake run after this ride, I just sort of realized that this was now like a complete ride. I wasn't a huge fan of Top Thrill just because I really like longer rides. For Top Thrill dragster, it felt like even a moral dilemma waiting 2 hours for like a 17-second ride. So needless to say, I think this one is definitely miles better than the original. But is Top Thrill 2 actually the king of Cedar Point? I mean, the ride's only operated for like a few days, so isn't it a bit early to call? No, this ride is genuinely insane. My guess is going to be most of the public's favorite ride, which is the main reason I think this is going to be the most popular and recognizable ride in the park. To be completely honest, this probably isn't going to be most enthusiast #1, but it will be for some. Shoot, it might be for me. I still haven't decided for sure. I'm going to wait till I get more rides on it to completely make up my mind, but I mean, my 3 rides on it were really good. Overall though, I just think this is going to be the new biggest, baddest ride in the park, and over the next few years, this will probably be the first ride that people think of when talking about Cedar Point. Just to prove my point, I made this photo drawing of some of the coasters at Cedar Point. Which ride stands out? Which ride is the most recognizable? Which ride do you see the most? Obviously Corkscrew. No bro, look at this thing. It doesn't even fit in the picture. This ride isn't going to be something forgettable. It's not a normal coaster. It's nothing like the public has ever seen before. I mean, Steel Vengeance is amazing, but there are other rides sort of like it. Literally any RMC in the US is pretty similar. Obviously some are better than others. But they all look pretty similar. They're just large wooden structures, right? But nothing is like Top Thrill 2. I mean, you could say King to Ka, but I'd argue their experiences are very, very different. It's pretty easy to tell them apart unless you're blind. Not gonna lie, it might be a little bit harder to tell them apart if you're blind. Actually, no, you can tell them apart. If you're blind, one goes... and the other goes... So the ride is at the center of the park. It's the tallest, fastest ride in the park, most recognizable, most one of a kind. So I think it's pretty clear that this is the new king of Cedar Point. It also has its own chocolate bar. The ride obviously isn't perfect, especially the queue. The queue is straight bars. Okay, so there are basically like 2 TVs in line, and the queue is just super long switchbacks. And the TVs are at like the end of the switchbacks, so you usually aren't near the TVs. There's also like 2 speakers, which are insanely quiet. You cannot hear them throughout most of the line. The line just feels super claustrophobic and cramped, and God forbid you hear the "Attention riders, we're experiencing a brief delay in operation," which is what we heard 4 separate times when waiting in line for this once. Seriously, it was not fun waiting in that line for like 3 hours. I don't even care too much about theming in line, just a couple more speakers and a little more space would make me happy. Possibly a good view of the ride too, like Steel Vengeance. Now that's a good line because the views of the ride are great. It wouldn't be so bad if you could have your phones, but you can't. And that's just great. Well, that's probably my biggest problem with the ride. I've heard a lot of people complain about the rattle. I mean, it's not butter smooth, but I mean, who really cares? Personally, it doesn't bother me while I'm watching at 120 miles an hour. I'm not thinking, oh brother, I wish this ride was a little smoother. That would be awesome sauce. No, I'm going, let's go! But unlike the line, the trains on this thing feel spacious and luxurious. They low-key remind me of Diamondback. They aren't as spacious, but it's a lot of open room and you don't feel restricted at all. Like there is no seatbelt or sides to the trains, and the trains are massive. Also, these restraints, bro, they are actually so good. I find them way more comfortable than the older restraints because they're so comfortable to hold the older restraints during the ride. But these are absolutely immaculate. All in all though, I love this ride. I really love this ride. It's so fun, it's so surreal. I'm actually devastated it's closed for the time just because I'm absolutely dying to get back on it. I was looking forward so much to getting more rides this season. I want to get around the back row so bad. I'm honestly so impatient. I want it to open so much. Anyways, thanks for watching.